A lot of the kids, again, the kids that ask me about helping them, sometimes I tell them you have to appreciate when you're down. You have to appreciate when you're struggling, because somewhere within that is the fuel that you need to get going.
Hey guys, welcome again. Today we have a real treat. I've been trying to get this guy for several months through a mutual friend. He's a super successful young man. I'm honored to be here with him, Daniel Mojica. We actually raised in the same town, and I had to have him. So we're here on site at his place of business. This guy runs and operates a multi-million-dollar helicopter business, and you guys are going to hear all about him. So without further ado, Daniel, welcome, brother. Thank you for being here.
It's a pleasure to be here,
Yeah,
and thank you for
yeah.
making the time.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate the little concoction you made me here.
Yeah, absolutely,
It
man.
helps a little bit.
Absolutely. Our friends bring us some supply here and there to taste here and there.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
So I know that this is a 45-minute show, and I know we chatted already for a half hour, and there's so many things. I just kept saying, dude, save that. I want you to tell that story. But I know that you grew up in the same town I did, Cicero,
Right.
Illinois, right? Those are it's a city out of Chicago limits, right out of Chicago. And tell me your story, dude. Like, how did you wind up here? It's crazy what you run here. It's amazing. You're like royalty here. I walk in and can I help you, sir? I'm here to see Dan. Oh, right this way. Wait right here. And it's like, okay, this guy must be a big shot. And like, wow, I
Yeah.
see you gave me a quick tour of this place. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And tell me, how did you get here? Just tell me a little bit about yourself, brother.
Absolutely. So a little bit about this location where you're at.
Yeah.
It's called VERTIPORT Chicago. And what is it? Think of a vertical airport in one word. And why that's important is because currently there are less than 5 vertiports in the whole world. There are 2 in North America. There's one in Dallas, it's a public heliport, and there's one here in Chicago. And I want you to think of this place as kind of, in Chicago-wise at least, it's kind of the O'Hare of vertical aircraft, right? But what's really interesting is right now, our main mission and our main focus is we facilitate and provide the necessary resources and staff so that organs and patients that come in and out of medical helicopters can land here, can have the appropriate flow so that they can enter the ground ambulances and head to any of the hospitals that were located nearby.
Wow. Okay.
So that's very important, right? And the best part is we don't charge for that. We that's a free service that we do for the community. So to offset those costs, because it's very expensive to have certified staff and payroll
Sure.
all year round to keep this place going. So to offset that, we're able to source aircraft for either families, businessmen, corporations, should they need to be transported in helicopters or in fixed-wing jets. So we're able to broker that. On top of that, we are bringing a brand new airline that will be doing sightseeing tours around the city. So that's going to help us, bring in more revenue to offset those costs. Sure.
And all that goes to like help, like organ donation, or if somebody needs Vetovac from one hospital to another, they use your facilities too. For
yeah.
that.
So otherwise, if this facility would not be here, aircraft would have to go to, for example, Midway, right?
Oh, geez. Okay.
There's hospitals do have helipads, but when there's very high winds and there's wind tunnels, they have to land here. For example, Laurie's Children's Hospital, right down in the heart of the city. There's times where we get letters from parents, right, thanking us for being here. Because if they had not landed here on that day where the wind tunnel wouldn't allow an aircraft to land at the hospital, they would have had to land in an airport like O'Hare or Midway, where the ground transportation would have taken over 45 to an hour, and who knows what the result would have been. But because
Right.
we're here 12 minutes from their location, it's literally a lifesaver.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
How does it feel, dude, to be part of that? It's
It
gotta
feels incredible, and what I'm really more proud of is the quality of team that we've been able to build and develop. When my team and I hire new staff, we don't look to hire employees. we look to hire leaders and develop leaders, because our vision is we want to be able to have more organizations reach out to us and ask us for help so they can learn how we are operating, and and help them improve their situation wherever they're located.
That's good. So you don't hire employees. That's really good. You hire leaders.
That's right.
And develop leaders.
Correct.
That's awesome. That's good.
That's right.
That's
yeah.
really good. And do you think, like, because I know you're the one that runs this place, is that like your secret sauce here to keep this place, operational, to its best capacity? I know you guys are always growing and expanding, but will you say that that's part of, like, not just hiring employees or people, but hiring, like people that are, number one, passionate and they're good leaders, and then you just keep developing leaders out of that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely been what's been allowing me to stay sane, because, for example, if I hire somebody today or interview somebody today, I will ask them what their passion is. And what I like about this question is most people will answer what they do for a living,
Right.
or what they study at school. But the people that can answer a genuine answer and say, hey, I love to knit gloves or scarves, or I like to take photos, right? It's very important to me to have that answer, because then I get to tie in what their passion is. For example, we have an admin here who loves taking photos. A majority of his job is to, help us with data and properly, interpret this data. But when we have big events or when we have situations, I'm like, hey, you're passionate about photos. Let's go take this content. And that content is taken with passion, and they get to use that to their side gigs if they have if they need help opening their business. I guide them through that, right? How they should establish their personal brands, and how to use this location and this wonderful business as a proof of concept of their work and their passion, right? That I trust them enough to help me with our situation so that they can go expand themselves. And that alone creates a beautiful energy, right? One of the things that people often say when I interview them, when I ask them, what do you look for in a company? Sometimes they'll say, it's got to be like a family. And I stop them right there. I'm like, well, we're not a family. Because family, if you have a brother that knows that you're always late, or if your brother knows that if he's late and you're always going to be on time, people take advantage of that. Oh, it's my brother. He'll be cool with it. Not here. Like, what I can promise, though, is that we have a great working environment, that when you come to work, you actually want to see your team. Right. You're excited to come in. And that's one of the things
and that's where the leadership comes in, and so that's cool. And you did mention something, you guys are expanding, something with Ubers or doing like short rides.
Right.
Hit that real quick.
Oh, absolutely.
That sounds like, oh my God, that's the way to the future. Like this autonomous cars, Ubers. I know they're doing that. They're going to start rolling that out.
Absolutely.
But with this the facility. Yeah. Tell me what you guys got coming with that.
Yeah, so think about it this way, right? One of the reasons why Tesla was super successful with their vehicle was because they also deployed a serious networks of charging stations, right? To give you an idea, right now, a helicopter flight from O'Hare to Chicago can cost somebody between $2,500 to $3,000, right? Because of the repositioning and just the nature expense of an aircraft, private aircraft. So I think about it this way. Over 130 years ago, most people were riding horses, and the rich had vehicles, right? So, and what's important right now, it's almost the same situation. Rich people only fly in helicopters. Well, these aircraft, right, the same route, 9 to 12 minutes from O'Hare to Chicago, is going to cost somewhere between $100 and $150 per person versus $3,000.
Wow.
Right? It's a huge difference. So this opens up the opportunity to use this type of transportation for almost anyone, right? Whether it's someone who's coming to a convention to McCormick Place, whether it's someone who's here on business, a family coming in, they want to do a little bit of exciting, right?
Sure.
It's somebody who's running late. They have to get to New York because they have to close that deal, and the traffic is 45 an hour, 30. They take this. They come 12 minutes from the city, and they take this flight, right? So that's important because in order for these electric aircraft to work, you need places to land and charge. And that's what a vertiport is.
Oh, it's electric.
Yeah, these aircraft are electric. That's why they're
Okay.
so more
Okay.
more cost effective. So again, that's why I'm simulating the Tesla situation
Sure.
because you need the charging stations to land the aircraft,
Okay.
recharge them, and then do it in the flight. So we're expecting they're going to build, or there's going to be over 10,000 vertiports in the next few years being constructed and operated. So being that we're one of the first, right, and we're one of the first to innovate, and we're doing full capacity missions at the moment with regular
Wow.
aircraft.
That's exciting.
It's
man.
very exciting. It's
Cool.
very exciting.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
So that's the next level here, and the next step you guys are setting up here.
Yes, correct. So far, I mean, a little bit over a week ago, we made a huge press release, a huge announcement that included the Governor Pritzker and included the mayor's office here in Chicago, Chicago Department of Aviation, outstanding group, and United Airlines and Archer Aviation, where we're preparing to do these flights around 2025, 2026.
Wow.
From O'Hare to here, where you're at
That's
now.
awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, so
I'm
we're
going to be
super
applying
excited.
just to try it out.
Yeah, absolutely. You'll be invited to some
Yeah.
of these openings, so for sure.
All right, bro. So you got to take me back. I know
Yeah.
you're here. You're a boss here. You run the show. I know you didn't start where you're at. And everyone has the story. I know
Yeah.
we kind of dove in before the podcast.
Yeah.
But tell me, bro. Tell me your background. How in the
Yeah.
hell did you get here? But where did you grow up? How did you grow up?
Yeah.
And I want you to touch on that real quick. And yeah, so
No,
go ahead.
absolutely. So, I think it's great. I love explaining my story of how I came here.
Yeah.
Specifically to people who reach out to me on Instagram or on LinkedIn and, hey, can you be my mentor? I'd love to.
Yeah.
Right. And then I tell them my story so they get the idea. They get the picture of what needs to be done.
Sure.
So there's two things people usually tell me. I did my best or I did what was necessary. And most people usually choose the first one. I do my best. And then I give them the story of you got to do what's necessary. What did I do that was necessary?
Whatever it takes.
Whatever
man.
it takes.
Yeah.
So to put it a little bit into perspective, around 2014, I started a small business, put all my money into it. Long story short, I failed, and I lost all my money, right?
But you graduated high school in 2010.
Yes.
We went to the same high school.
We went to the same high
Morton East,
school, yes.
Cicero, Illinois.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
And you grew up Cicero. You didn't grow up rich.
Nope.
You didn't grow up with wealthy parents.
Nope.
Right? You
Yeah.
grew up middle class, right?
So let's talk about that. So I graduate Morton East in 2010,
Right.
and I had a full scholarship to Western Illinois University out in Macomb, close to Iowa.
Really?
And
For what? What was the scholarship?
it was just based on it was like an
Academic?
essay, academic,
Okay.
and my ability to maintain my grades.
Okay.
But to keep it a little bit short, I had to transfer back towards the city because my father wasn't doing too well.
Okay.
And on top of that, I started selling insurance, life insurance, annuities, retirement plans, savings plans for college. And I would come every other Saturday to Chicago to meet with potential clients, and a lot of them would cancel me. And the few that would meet with me at the end, it'd be like, well, Danny, to be honest, like I've been working for over 35, 40 years. I don't feel right trusting 18, 19-year-old with my money. But the few people that did till this day are very thankful, right? So I was aiming to be a financial advisor part-time, making $4 or $5 grand a month, which at the time was a lot of money for anybody going to school full-time. And then when my father was getting a little bit ill, I'm like, you know what? I have to move back. I have to keep helping my parents out. So I moved back, and I go from learning how to make $4 or $5 grand a month, doing these insurance sales and things like that, where a client of the brokerage firm that I was working at asked the president of the company, he's like, hey, who's that young gentleman who spoke at the event, who introduced you? I'd love for him to help me with my business. And I go to one lunch with this person, and I saw that person make $250,000 in one lunch. A developer, real estate, right? I'm like, wow,
That's a business I want to be in.
I'm like, found a non-recourse loan.
Yeah.
Put the loan together with the project developer.
Sure.
Long story short, I was like, wow, that's great. So tried learning that. I put my own money to teach myself. Long story short, it didn't work out. Different personality reasons, and just I was completely. I didn't have anything on paper with this company, and when one of the deals that I found, I was 21. And I thought I was going to make about a little bit over $1 million in commission. Turns out that because I didn't have anything in writing, they just kind of brushed me off. So I was very, very sad, very heartbroken. That's actually when I found God, and I started talking to God more. And I said earlier, I'm not religious.
It's
I don't have
funny
a relationship.
how I found God is when they're in the worst place.
I mean,
You
I
know,
wanted
like,
to.
oh,
To be
God.
super sincere with you, I was contemplating suicide because
You were.
I had just came from Mexico. I had just gotten my green card. I wasn't born here, so I left to this trip.
So you were born in Mexico and
Yeah.
grew up in Cicero?
Grew up in Cicero. Yeah, I came here when I was 5 years old.
Oh, really? That's interesting because
yeah.
I immigrated when I was 5.
Yeah, so you know exactly
Yeah.
what I'm talking about.
So, yeah,
Our
similar
first
background.
apartment, I remember in Cicero, we shared with 7 different families. We used a rope and sheets to divide our little area, and all my parents could afford was the little clown cereal from Aldi's, from Cermak. That Aldi's that was over there.
The clown cereal?
I can't remember the name of the cereal,
Oh.
but I remember that I was a kid. I remember the little clown, but the other families would eat my cereal because that's what my parents could afford. So I remember struggling, right? So you know, I'm working with this firm. A lot of the kids, again, the kids that ask me about helping them.
Sure.
Sometimes I tell them you have to appreciate when you're down. You have to appreciate when you're struggling, because somewhere within that is the fuel that you need
Yeah.
to get going and keep it going.
Yeah. I just spoke to someone. I was overseas, and they called me. I was in South America a week and a half ago, and they called me and they said, "Hey, Rick, I just have met this person," and they just called me. They had an issue, and I feel sad. And this person was contemplating, right, suicide years ago. And I shared with them. And I said, "Hey, those are kind of like your situation, even in my past struggles." Right, like when you go through hard times, those are lessons. That's like, I look at it as God exposing a light on stuff, so you don't make that mistake
Yep.
in the future.
Correct.
So like you might in the future, maybe it was a $900,000 commission, but that same mistake could cost you $100 million in your future.
Correct. That's
as
exactly
a young
what I
man.
thought.
And so better when you're 21 than when you're 51.
Correct.
And I just take that as like life's lessons.
Correct.
And it's unfortunate because when we go to school, I always think, like when we make mistakes, we actually get punished. We get that red X on the school, like we actually get in trouble for getting it wrong. But it's when we're making mistakes and that's where the learning comes from. And I just think, I'm not an educator, but I think that a lot of the educational system is off because like people are finishing school, they don't know what the hell they're doing, they don't have proper communications skills, they don't know how to introduce themselves. They look at mistakes as a bad thing, but those are learning tools. It's like that's how you learn. And so
Absolutely.
You just got your MBA in psychology because just by having that conversation
Yeah.
with your bro, and he all of a sudden the light bulb went on, and I was like, heck yeah, I am the heartbeat of this family. I was sharing with someone actually yesterday, or the day before yesterday, that the chances of you being alive are like, I looked it up, a long time ago. It's like, like you were the lucky sperm cell that got fertilized out of millions trying to get in there. It was you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that, and I know there. Mental illness is a serious thing, but killing yourself or killing another human being, it's like saying "F you, God."
Correct.
Because life is so precious. It's a gift.
Correct.
And so I'm at that mentality. It's like I'm going to take care of my body. I want to try to live as long as I can because this is a gift, and life is short.
So short.
And it's how we spend it. And I appreciate what you said earlier about how you find employees and people to work for you because you create leaders and have those leaders create other leaders. It's like, what is your passion? What your passion is, and when you recognize what you are here on earth for, because your passion is different than my passion. But that's what we pursue is our passion, but that's our gifts. That's what we're supposed to go after. So I appreciate that you sharing that. So you bounce back.
Yeah.
You found God, or tell me that. What is that? What does that mean?
So, so
you
that's a
found
great question.
God, or
Yeah, I mean, I've always been around my parents, my mom specifically,
they're
always,
like Catholic or church
Well,
people?
we came from Catholic backgrounds from Mexico, but when we arrived in Cicero, our neighbors, Puerto Rican family, they took us to the Christian church. So I grew up
Okay.
around Puerto Rican Christians most of my life.
And what does that mean, Puerto Rican Christians?
I mean, they're just full of love and passion, and they're just it gave me a nice extra warmth.
I gotta
to
ask
my
the audio
childhood.
guy. What is Puerto Rican Christian?
I don't know. I mean,
I
I
don't know.
have to compare with
Is that a thing?
It was just I was probably one of three Mexican families in a full Puerto Rican church in Humboldt Park area. You know, so that's just what it was.
Arroz con gandules and
Oh, it was
lechon, dude.
great.
It's good stuff.
I
man.
loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah.
But I never really understood it until I decided to.
So you grew up with that?
I grew up around it. I never
Okay.
really understood it to the point where like how I live with intent to continuously have conversations with God and live with intent, right?
Yeah.
Until that moment where I decided to say, okay, God, I'm trying to do it my way. It's not working. I'm yours.
Sure.
I'm yours, and the companies that I have or I'm trying to make, they're yours. Just guide me, right? And whatever lessons I learn, whatever fails, give me more, but give them to me now. So I can
And
get
is
to
that like your epiphany, like when you like found God, or your spiritual side of it?
I
or-
asked for guidance, so I was able to locate actually my first grade teacher from Cicero School.
Yeah.
The same school you went to.
Right.
Across that park we talked
Yeah.
about. And we stayed in touch because remember when I mentioned a lot of people didn't trust me with their money?
Sure.
Well, she was one who did. So we put some investments for her back in my first business when I was 18. So we stayed in touch, and I knew she had a big passion for God. And so I visited her, and we went through the steps where I accepted God. And we prayed. We were thankful. We were super happy. And then I started to learn a little bit more of what does a Christian do, and what is what is one expected to be
Sure.
done. And I'm not perfect. I still swear. I still do my own thing, but I have great conversations with God, and that's why I say I'm not religious.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, to be super sincere, even when I pray, sometimes I say I fucking love you, God. Thank you so much. And some people hate that. Some people
Sure.
don't love that. But that's me and God. Like that's how I am, right?
Okay.
So. It is what it is.
To each their own. Everybody, you
Yeah.
know, I'm a believer of like everybody has their place in heaven. You know, everybody has their place. Like, just because something doesn't agree with you doesn't
Correct.
mean that I can't, partake in it.
Yeah.
You know, we are all responsible for our actions, our spiritual
Correct.
lives, and all that. So I appreciate you sharing that. So, will you say like? Founding your walk with God, or your spiritual side of things that helped you develop, like in the direction you're at today, or?
Absolutely. I think at that moment, in that year in 2013, I put one foot in.
Sure.
Because I was still learning and understanding.
Right.
And I didn't know that I only had one foot in. In my mind, I thought I was already in. But throughout time, what happened then, I got that job as a janitor in a luxury high-rise, and I got along very well with the residents. I was very amicable. I remember names, checked in on people, went above and beyond, until the point the management was like, hey, residents are asking me about you. I think it's time we put you up front and become security. I'm like, oh, okay. So they tailored me a suit. They put me up front. And I was starting to learn Instagram. This is 2014, 15,
Sure.
and I connected with some luxury pages on Instagram. I would take great photos of luxury things, and I connected with a company out of Brickell, Miami, right? And they introduced me to an app where you can book aircraft. Think of like Uber, but it wasn't Uber. So I decided to intern with them for free and help them out. I helped them expand operations into Las Vegas and Atlanta.
Really?
Yes. So I was able to get their app expanded.
And this is while you were
This is while I'm a janitor or
Okay.
at the luxury high rise, right?
Yeah.
And I actually had to take the pink line here to go. At the same time, I got accepted to Northwestern to learn business and leadership. So I'm going to Northwestern full time. I'm working at this high rise. And on my way to school, I noticed this helipad being built. because the pink line is right next
Yeah,
to
we
it.
see it.
You
It's
see it
probably
right now.
It's
Yeah.
gonna come out on the footage, I think.
So I'm on the train to school, and I look to my left. I'm like, that's an H pad. So I Google it and find results. Oh, new vertiport, heliport being open. And then I look into more. I'm like, oh, there's an event. Tickets are $60 or something. So I call the owner of the app, the aviation app. I'm like, hey, Chicago, like, I can finally bring this to my hometown. I'm excited.
And one of the trendiest neighborhoods in Chicago, right?
Right.
This is Pilsen, right?
It's Pilsen, Illinois Medical District,
Yeah.
Little Italy, where it's like
Yeah.
a hybrid mixture
Yeah.
of everything, right?
Okay.
So right off the bat, this person was very negative. Oh, I've tried Chicago, very political. We won't get in. I'm like, well, just buy me the ticket. I bought the ticket. I showed up the next week to the event. I wore my nice suit. I come in. People are handing me their garbage. They think I'm here to help, like, cater or clean,
Oh,
which is
shit.
cool. I took the garbage. I threw it out.
Here you go.
Yeah. So then I sit in the hangar, and there's all
Your
these
fancy
chairs.
J.C. Penney suit.
My little JCPenney suit, and I'm the hangar's set up where it's kind of auditorium style with chairs and a podium. And at the time, the president of this place is speaking, and after his speech, people line up to speak to him, and I'm towards the middle of the line, and I'm talking to the guy next to me. But in my mind, I'm practicing my speech, right? Oh, we have an app. We want to bring business to you. Like, I'm practicing what I'm going to tell him, and I feel a tap. I turn the right head. He looks at me. He walked around, came to me. He looks at me, dead in the eye. Who are you? What are you doing here? You're the only one who took notes. So I guess he saw me from the podium, right? Notes. So he
Wow.
I think he thought I was a journalist.
So the owner of
The
this,
president.
the
He was the
president,
president,
sorry,
yeah, at
of
the
this
time.
place
Yeah.
at the time.
Yeah.
You know, say that again, dude. You were here,
Yeah.
and you were taking notes,
Yeah. We're sitting down.
and you were practicing what you're gonna say to him.
Yeah. While I'm in line waiting to talk to him.
Yeah.
And I feel a tap. I turn around, and it's him. So he came from the podium and walked across like a handful of people to come address me, because I think he thought I was a journalist. He was just on the, I don't know if it was the New York Times or something, like the week before, so he thinks it's press, so he came to me.
Sure.
And then that's when I remember I played drums back, and when I get nervous on stage, sometimes my knees shake. And I
Really?
remember when I'm talking, my knees shaking, and I'm like,
Yeah.
a little like croaky. But I got my message across. I'm like, look, we have this app. We just explained it. I think if you use this app for the location here, people can book at the touch of a button. Helicopters just going to help your business. You don't have to hire that many people. Long story short, I connected him with the owner of the app, and through months of negotiations that I wasn't part of, they did that by themselves. The Vertiport invested over $250,000 into the app, and the owner of the app looked at me like, who the hell, like, this kid actually did something, So I just kept showing up for a year and a half, not getting paid. Just kept showing up.
Doing what?
Anything. Cleaning, welcoming people, answering phones, grabbing the mail, anything that I could do.
Yeah.
And it came to the point where that president at the time got replaced by a CEO who was one of the principals here. Later become my mentor. His name was Anthony Ponarelli. And Mr. Ponarelli was just everything that I'm being taught at Northwestern by these incredible professors who, have gone from Harvard to all these great schools, and they're teaching us about business leadership, about business acumen, right?
Sure.
Everything that they're teaching me. I come here after school or before school, and I see this Ponarelli guy do exactly what they're teaching me.
Sure.
And
Put
I'm
it
just
into
like,
practice.
thank you, God. Like, you're bringing me, the actual person.
It's interesting, dude. Like, let me go back a
Go ahead.
minute here on
Yeah.
what you said. Number one is, you didn't have a job here.
No.
Right? And I always tell people, that whatever you want to do, right, there are 4 things you have to do to become successful. Number 1 is mindset.
Yes.
Right? Number 2 is, you got to get information, educate yourself, right? Number 3 is be in close proximity of the people you want to be like.
Absolutely.
Right? And 4 is take action.
Yes.
Right? And so you did all those. You showed up, right? And, I always tell people that I'm mentoring or pouring into, I say, you got to serve people, you got to learn to serve people. And, my mentors, people that got me into real estate, people that helped me in the business, people that invested in me, I serve them. you know,
Yeah.
and what can I do here to help you? Even when I was like freaking broke, right? And I'll tell this story. One of my first mentors some years ago, uh, he was over at my house, and I was broke at the time, you know, fixing myself, and he came spent 2 days with me. I'll never forget. Right, and this guy was traveling everywhere. He was just getting, at that time, he was making 25 G's just to speak for like 2-3 hours on real
Wow.
estate. He spent 2 days with me, and I remember I ordered Chinese food, and I said, "Oh, let me feed you," you know, and I knew the check. It was a time where you could just write a check, and I knew the check was gonna bounce because I didn't even have like $30 on my account. But there's no way that he was gonna buy me food, you know. And I served him, and since then we became good friends.
Great.
I've helped him in what, you know, like in the seminars. I spoke for him and all that good stuff. You know, it's been years, right? And so you came here, you didn't ask for $1, you didn't ask to get paid. You cleaned, you picked up stuff. You know, for a year and a half, you kept coming. You were in close proximity to where you wanted to be. You know, you came here to serve. You know, and so touch base on that. So you came here for a year and a half, and you just knocked on the door. Hey, what do you guys need?
Yeah.
How did that go?
Well, they knew of me because I presented the app to them. But I think what stood out was that I wouldn't just leave. I'd
Sure.
come in and help. And there was a couple times where I'm sure they were annoyed. But then when they needed help, they're like, oh, then they appreciate it,
Yeah.
right? And specifically Mr. Ponarelli, who was an investor in this place,
Sure.
was very passionate about this project, and around that time, he was starting a tour airline to do tours. So that's when he's like, you know what? I'm starting this tour. Why don't we hire you to fuel? Why don't we just put you on the payroll to fuel helicopters? And I'm like, great, great. I mean, I could use the money, absolutely.
Sure.
But I never came thirsty for it. You know, I just
Right.
wanted to learn and the experience. That's all I
Right.
cared about. So they put me on the payroll to do fueling, but I ended up really focusing on helping him start and operate the tour airline, which I had no experience in. But
Wow.
that's what the internet's for. And I learned, I called people, I got feedback, and I executed. I hired, I trained people, I created procedures, and I think overall what he appreciates, he's like this old school Italian, right? So he will say whatever's on his mind. Yeah, he was very intimidating to a lot of employees.
Sure.
But to me, since I've always had and looked for business mentors, and I was
Sure.
around very old school minded people, I never took offense. I never took stuff personal. So he would be upset about something, he would tell me about it, and I would translate that in kind words
To
and
fix
deliver
it.
those messages
Yeah.
so that it
That's
shit got
awesome.
done. So I think he liked that.
Yeah. So you got hired, and then you just
Yeah.
moved up, you know. And what's your position, or what do you exactly do here now? I know you run shop here, but
So right now, my official title is executive director. So
Of the whole
of the
facility.
whole operation, the whole
Okay.
facility. We do different types of revenue streams out of here, and that's what we've been able to do to stay afloat. And again, back then it was really getting this tour airline going, and we did. I mean, we saw the numbers grow from 17, 18, 19. And 19 was probably our best year ever in this company, but unfortunately, in
COVID?
April of 2019, Mr. Ponarelli, my mentor, who became a very good friend and mentor at that time, we lost him to cancer.
oh, sorry to hear that, man.
It was very difficult time. Thank you. And the board of directors then came to me and two other colleagues to continue running the place. But my two other colleagues, they're the kind who, want to come in, clock in, and clock out.
Okay.
For me, it was 24 hours.
Right.
I would come here on weekends, and they ended up moving to other jobs somewhere else, and then, I'm kind of the last person here to.
That's cool.
So since 2019, great year. We were able to consolidate with a company who had helicopter operations out of Bridgeport. They got out of the helicopter airport business. We got out of the helicopter tour business. They were our exclusive tour operator here, and this was the only heliport. It still is. But pandemic happened. My first year of kind of running this place.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of lessons, and fast forward to now, we're making announcements to bring these aircraft
And
to
that's the
place.
motto.
That's
it?
one of the aircraft. This is Eve. So their parent company is Embraer. It's a Brazilian organization. So you've heard of Boeing, you've heard of
Sure.
Airbus. Embraer is one of the top manufacturers of planes. They're also entered the space. This is their model. This is the Eve model. So it flies like a plane, but it takes off and lands like a helicopter. And it's got
It's amazing.
It's electric, and
Wow.
it's zero emissions. It's incredible. And now we're excited because we're on the front of the
So
horizon.
in a couple years, you'll be using us.
Yourself,
Awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Dude, what keeps you going? What drives you?
Right now, what drives me is I feel that my passion has now become my improvement to my discipline. It's a helicopter landing.
Yeah,
right now.
I see
Is it a
on
black
there.
one?
Yeah, it's a black one.
That's beautiful. It's a beautiful executive helicopter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool.
So that's actually, that model was the first helicopter I ever flew in. Most people fly in the little bubble ones as their
Yes.
first one, and I was very spoiled. So my first flight was in that. It's a Bell 429.
Uh-huh.
The one I flew in had wheels, so you could drive on wheels. This one has
Okay.
skids. And it was Bell's pilot, so the manufacturer's pilot, and Bill Clinton's Marine One pilot.
Oh,
Those were
wow.
my first pilots in my first helicopter
That's
ride.
very
It was
cool.
incredible.
It's an
I'll
amazing
never forget
experience.
my first flight.
So,
Yeah.
what's that thing that drives you every day? Like, how do you keep things going, and what wakes you up in the morning?
I think the fear of not having another day, and my passion to improve my discipline and my ability to execute. You mentioned on your thing that you mentioned to your mentees, the last one, action.
Yeah.
That's the biggest one for me, is making sure that everything we set course, I'd rather say no if it's not going to be doable
Mm-hmm.
than 1 foot in, 1 foot out. So my discipline has been my main focus.
And what do you think? 3 books, right? I always ask that.
Yeah.
Best 3 books are 3 books you're currently reading, but I feel like I gotta ask you, what's that book that you've read, right, that really like changed the course of things in your life, like, in your business and your career? What's that book or something that you read?
It's a couple of them. Release Your Brakes is one of my all-time favorite books.
Release Your Brakes.
Release Your Brakes.
Who's that by?
Newman? I think I
Newman.
actually have it over
Okay.
here somewhere. Is it Paul Newman? The names escape me at the
Okay.
moment. And the other one is Tough Minded Leadership. I have them in my office. I can
sure.
bring them over for you. But the first one is really what I enjoy about this is Release Your Brakes. It breaks the whole purpose of the book is to explain to the average person that we can be like computers. So it's like the human operating system. And it breaks down what happens in your head that
Dude,
prohibit you from taking
I
action.
think I read that book. It's an old book,
It's an old
right?
book, yeah.
I read it.
Yeah.
I read
It's
it.
huge. I have it. It's here.
Yeah,
So
it's an old book.
old
Yeah,
book.
the author is dead already.
Yeah.
Yeah. I read that book, and what's that guy's
Jim
name?
Newman? Is it Jim Newman?
Yeah, I think
Mhm.
so. Yeah, I read that book. Yeah,
Yeah.
because when you said about the computer and all
It's
that,
like the
just-
human
yeah,
operating
yeah,
system. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
So it
good
helps
book.
you pull the trigger. It helps
Yeah.
you know, and then
Yeah.
and then back to people asking me to be their mentor.
Any recent good reads that you recommend?
It's a tough answer because one of my virtual mentors says sometimes most people think attending a seminar, attending a webinar, reading a book, 9 out of 10 times it's a sign of procrastination to the shit you have to fucking go and
Right.
get done.
Yeah,
So I'm purposely not trying to read anything. I'm purposely focusing on everything. But if I do have to read, I go back to those books. Release Your
Really?
Brakes and Tough Minded Leadership. Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Good, man.
Mhm.
So, and ending things, I first want to thank you for allowing us to set up here.
Yeah.
If people want to get a hold of you, how do they get a hold of you? What's your Instagram handle?
My Instagram handle is Lakeshore and Beyond, which is actually my brother and I's consulting company.
Okay.
Where we help organizations with business development. A lot of our clients are in the luxury niche.
Okay.
For example, one of the clients is actually here. It's DS Luxury, and I'm so proud of this company and their.
Is that the car thing?
Yes.
Dude, touch base.
Yeah, let me tell you
know,
about them because
okay.
they're growing incredibly.
Okay.
But they're growing. Very
But you
smartly.
brought them here, right?
No, I wish I could say that. They came in on their own. They were like me. So the owner was just like me. He just showed up, but brought a bunch of.
I thought you made the deal with them. You brought them here and
No,
shared the space.
no. So I was actually, it was within that time where I was first starting here. We were in the conference room, and we just see a bunch of exotic cars pull up, and they had these like superhero logos on them. Because
Okay.
what they did is they would go to the children's hospital and take the kids for a spin.
Oh, that's cool.
So, and they would dress like that, right? So then it became where everyone was asking them, hey, can I rent this out? So they're like, you know what? Why don't we just make a business out of it? So the owner, a dear friend of mine, his name's Mickey, I'll introduce you to him. He started with a couple cars, really two out of here, and has now become 80% membership, 20% daily rental business, where people are paying. There's different tier systems.
Like a monthly thing to use the vehicle?
Well, it's an annual thing. So
Yeah.
they'll pay about $80,000 for the first year.
Mm-hmm.
They have access to all the cars. Depending on your membership, you can access the California site, the Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and Chicago.
Yeah, they're doing that with yachts too.
Yeah.
And boats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have a jet now, so members have access to the jet.
Okay.
And I'm able to help them with helicopter stuff through the Vertiport. So.
And they're one of your clients. You help with developing.
Yeah, so
I
initially I was one of the ones who provided a lot of feedback for the membership. I was one of the. I think my client brought, maybe first or second member to their member program.
Yeah.
Through my consulting company, and now we work with Cloud Yachts out of Miami Brickell.
Yeah.
They're an NFT based membership. So if you have an NFT with Cloud Yachts, you have access to all their yacht parties,
Okay.
their
That's cool.
exhibitions. I'll be at the Monaco Yacht Show representing my company, Lakeshore and Beyond, this year. In tandem with
in Monaco.
In Monaco,
Nice.
I'm meeting with Belgian Yachts, who's a Turkish manufacturer, and they're releasing some of the brand new yachts.
that's cool.
So I'm super excited for that. And again, it's
Yeah, I like
it's
the boat
incredible.
life. I'm a boat owner. And,
Are you?
Yeah. And so I go like to the little boat shows.
That's
and all
incredible.
That. I
Yeah.
love that stuff. Best piece of advice you ever had?
Perfection equals paralysis.
Yeah.
That was my biggest issue in the beginning. I wanted to have the right spreadsheet, the right font, the right color, the right image, the right size, the right contact. It's that last point. Just take action. As long as
Yeah.
it's 80% to your
Yeah.
standard,
You just go with it.
just gotta go. Just gotta go.
Love it, man. Well, Daniel, thank you.
Yeah. No, thank
for
you.
sure. You know,
I appreciate you, and I can't wait to learn more about you. I don't really didn't get a chance to ask you questions.
yeah. No, but this is
yeah.
about you. You know,
Yeah,
but I just first want to just thank you, dude. I'm very honored, dude. Like I love seeing people like just come from nothing, and like your story, just come from nothing, dude. And there's no excuses. Like you went out, you started going to school. You said it took you 7 years to get your degree, right?
It took 7 years to
Yeah,
get
7
graduated
years,
from
right?
Northwestern. Yeah.
And you didn't even need a degree to be here.
No,
but if
I
that's your
became a
thing,
leader here before I got my degree.
yeah, and that was just something you
Yeah.
wanted to accomplish, and I believe in education.
Yeah.
But there's no excuses, Like I always tell people, there's no excuse. Here you are. You saw this place, taking the train, and you just got out and served for
Yeah.
a whole year and a half, and here you are. You're running this show.
Yeah.
You're going to Monaco. Like what what a life, right? You get to
Yeah.
get on the helicopters,
Yeah.
luxury cars, and you just still live a regular life.
I live a regular life.
And
I drive a beat up Ford.
uh,
I did get a Harley
Yeah.
recently, so
Yeah.
I love my motorcycle.
Yeah.
But
But it's cool. A very
it's-
impressive
yeah.
thing. I'm gonna come back.
Come back.
Maybe
We'll
in a
talk more.
couple months, and I want to talk to you more about your artistic stuff you did back in the day. And
Yeah.
you were a graffiti artist.
Correct.
So definitely, man. So thank you.
No,
Really
it's my
appreciate
pleasure.
it, brother.
My
Thank
pleasure.
you again.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it.